3.
Around 13 years of age, I became addicted to instant messaging. I wasn't friendless or weird, but I just preferred communicating with people online, which often led to striking up online long-distance friendships. Most of the time, it was completely harmless, but looking back on some of the conversations I had with older people than me leaves me feeling I was a bit naive. But this encounter was of a different ilk. At age 15, I had my regulars I talked to, and one of them was a real-life friend, John, who knew my family quite well. I had dated him when I was younger, but dated in the form of no physical touching and me dumping him over MSN. The closest we ever got to intimacy was me taking a topless photo of myself for him, but never actually sending it because I was a bit chicken. It was weird for a while, but we eventually became best friends. One day, after I signed in, John began talking to me as though we had already been partway through a conversation. I asked what he was on about, which confused him as he had supposedly just been talking to me. He copied and pasted the conversation from before I had signed in. From my account, someone had been talking to him using my distinct tone of writing. I panicked, called John, and explained that it wasn't me that he'd been talking to. We both didn't know what to do, so we just hoped it wouldn't happen again and ignored it. Maybe a week or two later, the same thing happened again though. And again. And then it started happening with multiple people. This fake me was having conversations with people I talked to most on my account, from my own account. And they had absolutely no idea that it wasn't me. I'm assuming that this person could read my conversations and had been mimicking me. John and I decided that it would be a good idea to create a new account and re-add the people I was closest with and ditch the rest. It worked for a little while, but I think the fake me must have realized I had switched accounts because not long after that, the same thing started happening to my new account. Again, I created new accounts, and this person somehow kept getting into them. I didn't want to tell my parents as I thought they might take my internet access away, and at the time, the thought of that made me feel sick. So I decided on a different tactic. Instead of trying to escape the fake me by creating different accounts, I quickly added my old account once I made a new one. I have no idea what this was meant to achieve. I think I was more curious at this point because I didn't see any danger. Everyone I had added knew what was happening by now, and fake me hadn't done any damage just by talking to people. Anyhow, I ended up in conversation with fake me. I can't remember the details, but it was actually really amusing to start off with. I was pretty witty, and I think I was entertaining to fake me because we got into banter, held conversations, and whatever else. Fake me stopped getting into my account and instead just focused on talking to me. All this carried on for possibly close to half a year. Towards the end of it, I was 16 now. I began seeing a guy called Luke, who was a few years older than me. Fake me took an interest in this and began targeting my conversations with him instead. It got to the point where he would actually stop talking to me and be talking to fake me instead, despite knowing it wasn't me he was talking to. This annoyed me, so with the help of John, we decided to try and cut off my old accounts by using a different computer, as we were assuming she was getting into my accounts via keylogging or something. So John brought his laptop around. I created a new account and changed all the passwords on my old accounts. He left the laptop with me for a couple of days so I could use it. And shortly into those few days, fake me managed to get into my damn account again. At this point, I realized that it was a much more serious issue. Fake me could get onto any computer connected to our internet, and it suddenly wasn't amusing anymore. After apologizing profusely to John, I think I lost it a little bit and abused fake me. And by a little bit, I mean swearing, crying, and generally carrying on like an idiot. Because we all know that internet bullies react so well to that kind of behavior. After my outburst, fake me turned malicious. Fake me started locking me out of my accounts this time, started harassing my friends more, pretending to be me and abusing them. Some fake me flirted really graphically with. I still didn't tell my parents though, for fear of them removing my internet access and losing my precious chat rooms. It all came to a head when Fake Me found the previously mentioned naked picture of me and sent it to all of my contacts. I had completely forgotten about it and must have left a copy on my hard drive. Luckily, I didn't have many contacts due to losing most from my ever-changing accounts, but still, it was horrible and had me feeling so ashamed. I know I shouldn't have taken the photo in the first place, but for it to be sent around without my knowledge left me feeling absolutely sick. Lord knows where that photo has ended up on the internet. At this point, John decided to take things into his own hands and told my dad. He left the part out about the photo, but the rest was detailed. My laptop was taken away and the cable for the household computer was hidden, and I couldn't use it unless I was supervised. I don't know what he did about securing our network, but it never happened again after that. I was stupid and blamed John for telling my dad, but in reality, he did what I should have done from the start. I put my family at risk because I couldn't deal with not having my chat rooms anymore.
Number 2.
Today I went to the movies to see Deadpool. Alongside me was my stepmother, who has recently been training to be a cop. In the beginning, everything was going normally and everything was good. I loved the movie and had seen it once before this. Toward the end of the movie though, I noticed an older man who had walked to the top of the theatre where me and my stepmother were sitting, and he just stood there. He didn't watch the movie, didn't sit down, didn't do anything except stare at people. I blew it off, thinking that he was looking for someone and couldn't find them. He then went down toward the entrance of the room and did the same thing, looked up at everyone and stared for another 7 to 10 minutes before leaving. I thought it was odd, but continued watching the movie. About 2 minutes later, I see the same old man walk in, only this time he walked very slowly across the theatre, not looking at the screen or anything, but again looking at all the people. My stepmother looked at me and whispered, "Grab your things and head to the lobby." I began to get a little freaked out and did what she said. I went to the bathroom to pee, and when I came out, there were 4 workers standing outside the theatre, and she was explaining how his behaviour was like that of someone about to shoot up a room. He was scanning the room and everyone in it. After a while, the workers took control of the situation and watched the man for a bit just to make sure everything was well. 2 workers went in, and after about 5 minutes, they came out saying, "Yeah, dude, he's still standing there and just staring at everyone." Soon after, we left the theatre just to be safe. Once getting home, she had called one of her friends that works at the police station and talked to them about it. They said he was a middle-aged man and he had a loaded weapon on him the whole time he was in there, and never once sat down nor stopped looking at everybody.
Number 1.
A bit of background info. I'm a university student in the southwest of England. I currently live in a share house with 3 other girls in a somewhat dodgy area. My bedroom is the only one on the ground floor, with a back door that leads onto a small and discreet patio in the garden. It's a semi-detached, so there's houses on either sides, and there's a lane behind the gardens with no street lighting. Recently, we've had some bad weather in the area, so the dividing fence on one side has fallen down, as well as some of the fencing to the lane belonging to the other houses. The first time it happened was at the end of December. My housemates were all still at their parents' for the holidays, but I'd come back early to revise for an exam I had in January, so I was there alone. I always keep the back door in my bedroom locked, and I have blinds that cover the full length of the door and window with a gap probably around 3 inches in the middle. I was sitting on my bed with my laptop, and since I had the lights on, I couldn't clearly see outside as it was dark. However, I kept thinking I could see something in my peripheral vision through the gap in the blinds. I wouldn't have been able to see anything outside unless it was close to the window. I looked up a few times and thought I saw something pale move away in the lower right-hand corner of the window in the door, which would have been directly by the gap. I figured I was probably just being paranoid and ignored it. Later on, I went upstairs and noticed through the hallway window that the people we share a lack of fence with, they were having people over. My bedroom is on the opposite side of the house, so my patio and window wouldn't have been visible to them unless they have come into the garden and walked over. Around 2 a.m, I heard what sounded like their guests leaving and figured that maybe someone had drunkenly wandered over earlier on. At this point, I had all my lights off and was sat in my bed with my laptop and heard what sounded like someone shuffling around outside. I immediately closed my laptop so my room was completely dark and no one would be able to see anything from outside. I crawled across the floor to the window and peeked through from the very edge of the blinds on the right. There was a man crouched outside my door, trying to look through into my bedroom. I realized later that I should have made it obvious I knew he was there by yelling something at him, but at the time I was frozen in solid fear. I had absolutely no idea what to do. After a couple of minutes, he realized that he couldn't see anything with the lights off, but had the nerve to tap and then crept away. I debated calling the police, but decided I didn't really have any information for them, so it would be a waste of their time. Needless to say, I didn't get much sleep that night, and I have no idea how long he'd been watching me. I spoke to my landlord afterwards, and he's had a concrete wall put up between the garden and the alley, but the other fence with the gaps in it belongs to the neighbours, whose landlord is an American and apparently is impossible to get a hold of. So currently, there's still nothing securing our garden from next doors and the lane. 2 nights ago, my boyfriend and I were in my room, sitting on my bed and watching Netflix. Since the first time it happened, I've been massively paranoid and had nightmares about it happening again, so at first, I thought I might be imagining it. However, this time, I distinctly saw the upper right part of a face peering through the gap at us. He was wearing dark frame glasses. Immediately, I froze and whispered to my boyfriend that I could see someone, and I definitely wasn't imagining it, and don't fucking move until we figure out how to react. He insisted that we leave the room, and I went upstairs to the landing window and saw someone walking off down the lane, but no one else in sight. I was quite upset that it happened again, but thought the likeliness of him coming back twice in one night was rare, and decided to talk to my landlord in the morning. We managed to hang a coat up over the gap in the blind so you couldn't see through into the room at all, even with the lights on. My boyfriend had work in the morning, so he left around 11 p.m. Literally within 5 minutes of him leaving, I was stood in my room facing away from the back door and decided whether or not to watch more Netflix or go to bed. I heard some faint scuffling sounds and 2 clicks, but tried to convince myself that it was all in my head. It occurred to me a few minutes later that the clicking sound was the noise the door handle makes when someone tries to open it and it's locked. As this was dawning on me and I was about to react, whoever was out there tried to pull my window open. It's important to note it's a tiny window and it's at the top, so around 5 feet from the ground. It doesn't close all the way as the latch is broken, but I have a dream catcher with wind chimes hanging from the inside handle, so as they pulled it open, the wind chimes started rattling against the window. I was terrified at this point. I'm very small and have no idea how to defend myself, and someone was actually attempting to enter my house through my bedroom. I have no idea how I summoned the courage to do it, but I whipped the blinds open and made a big deal out of slamming the window shut, then peered outside. I couldn't see anyone, so they must have run off. Straight away, I called my boyfriend, who had just gotten home, who then came back and insisted that I stay at his for the night. When I spoke to my landlord the next morning, he said he was going to get motion sensor intruder lights installed, but couldn't fix the fence as it was the neighbour's landlord's property. I was still pretty freaked out, but I thought that the wind chimes rattling must have made it clear that trying to get in wouldn't go unnoticed, and the gaps had been covered, so there wouldn't be any point in returning again. Last night, we made a thick covering over the blinds with a bunch of jackets and coats, so there was absolutely no way anyone could see in. I triple checked the door was locked, took the key out, and attempted to wedge the window closed. Feeling safer, we smoked a joint each, and my boyfriend dozed off a while later. Probably around midnight or a bit later, I got up and turned the lights off and put the light on my phone to make my way back to bed. Feeling really paranoid still, I decided to just peek through the blinds quickly to confirm that there was no one there. The light on my phone made it slightly more difficult to see, but I saw someone wearing a hoodie hunched outside. My hands were shaking, and the side of the blind balancing on the coat in the middle slipped a little and rattled. I instantly let go and turned the light off on my phone, and a few moments later I saw a weak light coming from the other side turn off. I must have sat on the floor, not moving and listening intently for about 10 minutes before I dared to crawl back to bed. I woke my boyfriend but didn't explain what had happened properly, so he assured me that I couldn't have seen anything and I was probably just really baked. I spent most of the night staring at the blinds. I would have thought the wind chimes would have put anyone off, but for them to come back the next night has really made me feel uncertain about what to do. I was thinking tonight I might try to set something up to see if anyone comes back, like tying some string a few inches from the ground across the entrance of the patio, as I'd be able to hear if anyone tripped over it. I also thought that I might stay somewhere else and set my laptop webcam up to record the window all night with the screen turned off. I still haven't called the police, as I still don't have much information and feel like it would be wasting their time. I don't know what to do in order to feel safe in my home anymore.
G'day mates, it's be.busta here. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video guys. Thanks again to the Hive members that bravely shared their stories for us all here, and I hope you're all doing really well. For the chance to have your story feature in a video, you can send your story to my email, which is in the description below. And as always, keep them coming guys, as this channel relies upon your stories to continue. Also, please do me a favor and just state in your email what your story is about in the description, and also provide me with a short written statement of consent just so that I can be above board with everything. And also remember to tell me in the email if you would like to remain anonymous, and please change any names if you don't want particular names to be shared. As always guys, it would be awesome if you could like, share, comment and subscribe if you're new. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram for updates throughout the week. You can also catch me on my second channel, all of which have links in the description below. Thanks again for always tuning in guys, for all the love and support, and I'll see you mates in the next one.